Hi, this is Jason Cockington, and in this video I'm going to show you a walkthrough on how to implement my show or hide a visual solution for Power BI.
Now you can see on the screen at the moment that this is the outcome that we're looking for. We want the matrix to be visible only once a selection has been made in the category slicer, but we also want that visual to still be interactive. We want to be able to still slice and dice the rest of the report by a selection within the matrix in this case. Now, this approach will work on other visuals. There are some visuals that it is not recommended for. So, for example, using it on a map or on a waterfall chart, you don't really get the ideal situation. And for a visual like a gauge, you'll need to modify the approach slightly. That will then allow you to get the same effect out of the gauge. That will require a little bit of further manipulation, which you'll see in the comments section further down in the article. All right, so let's jump in and try and build this solution. So we'll start off just by placing a matrix with customer occupation and total sales, and we'll also place a slicer containing product category. Now, at the moment, we can see that we've got our slicer and our matrix, but they're just behaving in a normal way. As I select my category slicer, I slice and dice my matrix, but there is no way I can conditionally hide my matrix at this point in time. So what I want to do is create a measure that will identify whether or not a selection has been made on the slicer. And for this, we're going to do a simple measure using the isFiltered function. So I'll just come over to my fields pane. I'm going to right click on my measures table, new measure. And I'm going to call this check filtered. And we'll use the isFiltered function. And the column of data that we want to check that has a filter on it is our product category. And I'll just put a little note here. Just to remind myself what I'm looking at. So this will return true when any selection is made on the category slicer. All right, so let's test that by putting a card on our page. I'll just put it up here in the top right-hand corner. And we'll just simply put that check filtered measure on that visual. And we can see it's currently returning false. If I select bikes, that changes to true. Okay, that's step one. The next measure that we want to create will be an instructions measure. A measure that will give our users the instruction on what to do to get the visual to reveal itself. So let's go ahead and create a new measure again. And I'm going to call this measure message. We're going to use an if statement for this one. And in this case, it's going to be if check filtered. And I'll just put a little note next to that. So check filtered returns true or false based on the selection in the slicer. So the result, if it's true, will be nothing. So I'll just put two, let's see if I can get rid of the IntelliText there. I'll just put two quotation marks there. And then I'll add in another comment here. Okay, so this one's just give me nothing when check filtered returns true. So it's just going to return a blank value. Without it displaying the word blank, it'll just return a blank state. And then, of course, the last condition we need to provide is the what happens if check filtered returns false. And so in this case, we want our message. So you must first select a product category from the slicer to see the results. All right, now the measure is not really laid out using DAX best practice. So let's just jump into DAX formatter and get that fixed up. So I have a DAX formatter external tool, DAX formatter here, and that just opens up a browser for daxformatter.com. Now you don't need to have the external tool to use this. If you just go to daxformatter.com, you can then place your measure into the header section of the website, click format, and it'll come back nicely formatted. I'll then just click the copy button here, and we then just paste that straight over the top of our previously written measure. Okay, so we now have a message measure. So let's go ahead and add another card onto our page. And we'll place the message on there. And you can see here it's returning my message at the moment. You must first select a product category from the slicer to see the results. If I click bikes, our check filtered goes true and our message goes blank. So everything is working as it should so far. So that's excellent. All right. The next step, we need to write another measure, and I'm going to call this measure hide visual, because this will be the measure that allows us to show or hide the contents of the matrix. So I'll call this one hide visual. This one's going to be another if condition. So if check filtered, the result if true will be 1, and the result if false will be 0, and we close brackets. So if check filtered, return 1, otherwise return a 0. And again, we'll add this one into a card just to confirm that it is working as we expect. So hide visual. At the moment it is returning 0 because there is no selection made in the category slicer. If I select bikes, we can see that changes to a 1. Okay, so we have the building blocks that we need in order to produce the solution that we're chasing. So the next step is to get the matrix to populate based on the hide visual measure. So to do this, we'll select our matrix. We'll open up our filters pane and we'll add the hide visual measure to filters on this visual. We then change the is less than to is, and then this must be 1. Apply the filter, and we can see straight away the matrix has depopulated content. As soon as I click bikes, the matrix renders the relevant data. Okay, so our matrix is now performing as we require. Our next step is to cover the matrix up with our message card. Now we're actually going to need one more building block in order for this to work. And so we'll go ahead and create one more measure. And this measure I will call make transparent. Again, we're going to use our good old friend the if check filtered, comma, the result, if true, will be the hex color code for the transparent color, which is hashtag FF FFFF00, close quotations, and we might just put a little note in here, and then the last condition that we need to return is the false condition. So in this case, the false condition, we just want the same color as our background. In this case, my background is white, so I'm going to use white as my background color, and then close brackets and enter. Okay, so I already have my message card. So let's go and apply the conditional formatting around the make transparent onto the message card. So we'll select the message card, we'll go into the format your visual. In this case, we want to manipulate the background color. So we need to go into the general settings, into effects, and here we can see there's a little FX option next to the background color settings. That means we can use a measure to conditionally format this color. So we'll go ahead and click on that FX. We need to set this up as a field value because it's going to be based on the result of our particular measure. And so in this case, we want to place our make transparent measure in this field option here. We go ahead and click OK. And now we have transparency conditionally formatted. So at the moment, there is a message being displayed. So the background color will be white. And if I drag my card over my matrix, we can see that I can't see the matrix behind the card. However, if I click bikes, now that background color changes to transparent. And remember, the message is returning a blank value at this stage, so we see nothing. I can see the message here, and we're going to go and deal with that next. So I'll just deselect my category to make the message card pop to the front again. I need to get rid of this message here. To do that, I go into Format My Visual, and I just turn off the category label. Excellent. The next thing I want to do is I want to position my card so that it just covers the top section of my matrix. Now, I need a bit more space here. So let's go ahead and expand that out. We'll also expand the matrix out at the same time, keep everything nice and even. Now, I only place the message card above the top two rows of my matrix. Now, once the matrix is rendered, we'll notice that we can't select the top row straight away because the card will still be above the matrix. But once we're interacting with the matrix, the values inside the matrix will be selectable, and then we can select the top row once we've essentially brought the matrix to the front. So that's another point that's important to note here. If I select my card, I'll go into the build visual, go into the general settings, into properties, into advanced options, and we want to make sure the maintain layer order is off. If we put maintain layer order on, we'll never be able to select that top row of the matrix. So make sure that is off. Now that should be off by default, but if you've turned it on previously just out of habit, just make sure you turn that off. Okay, so we have our matrix, we have our card, and we have our slicer. Everything is now working, so we can get rid of our check filtered card, we can get rid of our hide visual card, and we now have the outcome that we were chasing. I'll select accessories, my matrix populates, I can select a value in my matrix, and you'll notice because I chose one of the bottom ones, I can now choose clerical. If I deselect my accessories options, I get my card reappearing. If I select bikes this time, you'll see that the matrix once again renders. However, if I was to try and click on the clerical row straight away, I'm going to hit my card because my card is currently at the front. So this is really the only piece of education that you need to give your audience, your readers, but providing they select one of the other values in the matrix first, we can then go and select clerical to slice and dice the rest of the report up by clerical. I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and I wish you well on your DAX learning journey.